Okay. So before we get started, we got a couple minutes here. Just a reminder to everybody who is on here to please keep yourselves muted unless the chair calls on you to speak. That way we avoid too much chit chat, too much clutter and confusion. And we are recording it, and I have 11:59, so in 1 minute we can get started.
Okay.
Use this one?
No, thank you, though. Okay, it is now 12 o'clock. Let's go ahead and start meeting for the Rogue Valley Sewer District's Board of Directors on September the 15th. And because we're not all present in the boardroom, let's go ahead and go to the roll call.
Okay, Joan just stepped out, so I'll do the roll call. Roger
Okay.
Helm,
Here.
Jim Snyder,
Present.
Kay Harrison,
Here.
and Wayne Brown and Mike Parker are not here and will not be attending today.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Carl. Next we have on the agenda, consent agenda, which takes into consideration the minutes from the last meeting and the ethics. Has everybody had a chance to read over both the minutes and the ethics? Jim and Roger?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion in a second.
Roger will move to approve the minutes.
The consent agenda,
Pardon?
the consent agenda, because there's two
Oh,
items
yeah,
on
the
it.
consent,
Yeah.
consent, okay, thank you, Carl. Roger will move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Jim. So now we need a roll call on that, please.
Wait, Kate Harrison,
Yes,
Roger Tom,
Yes,
Jim Snyder.
He's muted.
Yes.
thank you. So Roger and Jim, I'll need you to go back and forth on doing those making doing everything because it's just the two of you. Okay, next we have on the agenda the resolution 21-26 pipe sizing reimbursement rates.
Okay, well, I'll address it real quick. So this is a resolution we pass every year. And basically, there are times where a private developer doing a project and we ask them to increase the pipe their size so that it can be extended further beyond them. And when that happens, we would reimburse that developer for the differential cost between the pipe that he needs for his project versus the pipe that we're asking them to put in. And so this resolution establishes those rates. That way we don't have to worry about how to calculate what it would be. It sets the rates for the year of how much we would reimburse in that scenario.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Well, just one general one. The resolution itself talks about reasonable rates based on current prices. Are we going to have to redo this one every time the prices change because of inflation or whatever?
We redo this annually. So, whatever happens between now and this time next year is not going to get captured until we redo it next year.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I need a motion, please.
Roger will move for approval of the pipe reimbursement rate
Thank you, Roger.
resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call, please.
Kate Harrison,
Yes,
Roger Tom,
Yes,
Jim Snyder.
Yes,
thank you. And next we have Resolution 2128, adoption of the Jackson County and the RVSS IGA.
Okay, this is the agreement between us and Jackson County to administer the stormwater program, the NPDS MS4 permit. And we've been operating under an agreement signed in 2006 until now, until this one gets
Oh,
approved.
wow.
So
Yeah.
this addresses some issues with the newly issued permit and some other things that we've been working on with the county. Jenny might be able to add more to that, but this is enables us to carry forward with assisting the county on that permit.
Okay, Roger, Jim, do you have questions of either Carl or Jenny?
no
I
question.
read through it. It sounds like the usual IGA.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything outstanding.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, I'm ready for a motion then.
I will move for approval resolution 2128, adoption of Jackson County and RVSS IGA.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Kate Harrison,
Yes,
Roger Tom,
Yes,
Jim Snyder.
Yes,
thank you. Okay, next, project update.
All right, I'm in the boardroom, so if you guys can't hear me, just tell me to speak up.
I can hear you pretty good. Go ahead, Nick.
So starting at the top, just to let you guys know, we got a bunch of other projects waiting in the wings. So I'll have them on here next month, but I kept it pretty thin this month. West Glenwood Pump Station, that design has been approved by DEQ. And we basically just need to order the pumps and then schedule the construction crew to go out there and start installing the upgrades on that pump station. Arborwood Pump Station, the wet well valve vault combination fiberglass insert unit that we're going to use to retrofit that pump station was delivered this week. We pulled measurements and I should have put it, I'll take a picture of it and include it on the next board meeting because it's pretty cool. It's a one-stop
That's cool.
shop. All the guts are come installed. You just basically prep the existing wet well and drop it right in. And it's in connect the pipes and electrical and you're more or less ready to go. It's a pretty slick operation. So we're starting the preparation process as far as getting a plan of action with the construction crew and permits and everything else we need for that. So we should, within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be mobilizing out there. J331 Oak Valley Sewer Reconstruction. The sewer is in, the trenches and the street need to be repaved. It sounds like the homeowners association would like to wait on that until some of the communications companies get in there and do a little bit of extra work. I think there were some conflicts with our trenching activities. A couple of the conduits were busted, and our contractor's gonna fix those and take care of that. And I think the utility actually has some additional work to do as well. So once that's complete though, the project will be done. It's just administrative work on the reimbursement district after that.
Okay,
J332 Central Point Forest Main Rehab, that project, the bid has been awarded and the contract is complete. We're just waiting for the contractor to get moving on that one. Everybody's pretty busy right now. A lot of these contractors actually have equipment out on fire. So we may need to push a little bit on that to get them moving.
okay,
J340 Talent Mobile Estates, that was a small project our construction crew did. That one's complete, done, repaved. And I-004 done pump station replacement. We're still moving forward. The contractor, they've got the pump stands formed. They're going to be installing the anchor bolts to be cast in place for the pumps. Once those are poured, they'll be able to set the pumps after about 7 days, or at least until or when they get compressive strength on their concrete established. And they'll start putting all the piping together. So it'll really start taking shape. It's going to look pretty cool. And you'll really see the changes soon. A couple of things on that. We had a handful of items were left off of the construction documents that our consultant put together. The most notable one was we have quite a few. We call it grading, but essentially it's a bunch of catwalks and debris. It's a debris gate inside the wet well that was left off of the plans, which actually ended up being kind of it's not a huge deal. It's actually not a deal breaker, but it added some time and some extra costs to the project. So we'll end up seeing that on the change orders, but most notably the time on the back end to fit those and get them replaced.
Nick, when we have that kind of work done, how do we look over the work that's done by the engineers and everything to make sure that everything is on there? How do we typically handle those things?
That's a good question. We did plan review on those plans and on the plans and the contract, and we actually ended up catching quite a bit of stuff on the plan review. This one in particular slipped through the cracks, obviously, on the engineer side and our side on review. So going back to the engineer and saying, you guys left this off, this is going to cost us X amount of days on the contract, would just be kind of it would be a bit of a discussion. Let's just put it that way.
It definitely, but again, as with everything, this is a lessons learned. So next time we can pay attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The goal is, the general goal is to not have any change orders. That's the gold standard.
Yeah.
That's very seldom reached in any contract. Usually,
and that's okay for a lot of different reasons. You've got them. So yeah. This seemed like this one shouldn't have been there, but
no, you're right. It actually shouldn't have been. But I mean, it's probably worth saying. It's probably not a valid argument, but it's definitely worth saying. The contractor came in almost $400,000 under the second place bid. So from that aspect, we're doing all right. So that's it.
But now we know why he came in 400,000.
Yeah, if it's any consolation. So
okay.
That's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to stormwater.
Okay, so we already approved the IGA. So I just have a short report for you. We're finishing up our dry weather outfall monitoring. We've been doing that this year back in the burn area. So we've revisited the outfalls we visited this in the fall. Some of them have been replaced and repaired. The ones that we noted in the fall, we provided lists of those to the cities of Talent and Phoenix and Jackson County, all the ones that were melted and damaged. Phoenix has replaced most of the ones within there. Talent still got several that are damaged, but we haven't come up with any significant issues from our outfall monitoring. We are starting our Salmon Watch program, which is the annual program we run every year with RVCOG for the elementary kids. The complication this year is, of course, COVID, but not in the way that you might have thought it was. All the kids are back in school, so they're physically there and able to do the program. The problem is we can't get the kids to the places where we typically run the event because there are no bus drivers this year for field.
Yeah,
We're kind of scrambling, trying to find places near the individual schools that the classes can actually walk to
Yeah.
do the program, because we didn't do it last year, so we really wanted to kind of get it back on that this year.
Oh, wow.
So just another hiccup. And then we've got Bear Creek Stewardship Day coming up on September 25th, which is a volunteer event that's actually run by Jackson County, but they have us run some of the specific locations. This year, they've asked us to run a cleanup location on Coleman Creek, which is in between the Coleman Creek Estates and the former Royal Oak Mobile Home Park, that those two parks that burned. That section of creek has just historically been really trashed, very trashed. And I think most people never realized it because it was totally overgrown. You couldn't see it,
Yeah.
but once it burned, you could see just how trashed it was. So hopefully we'll get some volunteers in there for that. Let's see. I think that's all I had on there for you. Next month, I will be coming to you with our annual report, our DEQ audit, and our stormwater management program document. So 3 different things that all have to be approved by the board, and then submitted to DEQ by November 1st.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jenny. Okay, so let's go on to O&M updates, please.
All right, good afternoon. Some footages there of note, aside from the norm. Special cleaning footages. This is last month is root saw month. So see, we flushed 7,280 feet on special cleaning, but also root sawed 19,283. That carried over into Gold Hill as well, where we flushed 808 feet and root sawed 1,722 feet.
Wow.
That in turn upped our special cleaning summary to 118 equipment hours and 258 labor hours for a total of $18,184.56. Outside work, City of Gold Hill, we did some video inspection of some storm drains that runs through and under Swedes Machinery's property out there. And it was determined that that does indeed belong to the city. So that's why we were doing some of that work for them.
Okay.
City of Rogue River, we cleaned a pump station and assisted their staff with the operation of the station as well.
Oh,
And City of Jacksonville, just a typical clean storm drain catch bases and some magnetic pipe to those basins.
Shane,
Pump stations. Oh, go ahead.
question real fast. That assistance with the staff there in Rogue River, is that going to be an ongoing thing, or is this a one-off? Or do
No,
we
it's
know
been
that?
it's been pretty regular. They whenever they have any pump station issues, they do call on us
Okay,
to clean the station, and then our staff have to assist them with getting their pumps primed and getting them back into operation because they're just not familiar with the process. So
I knew we had been out there before, so.
yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty regular. I think we're going to be doing some TV work for them coming up soon as well. So
Okay, that's good to keep in mind. Okay, thanks, Shane, go ahead.
yeah, pump stations. Our Echo Wave pump station, we got the #1 impeller installed and the pump back in, and we're back on 2 pumps again. And fog, we're again trying to reestablish fog inspections, and he's also mixing in some annual metered accounts as well. Other than that, that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
I already asked mine. Anybody else have a question of Shane? Okay, manager's report. Thanks, Shane.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. And first talk about the fire impacts of FEMA. I just got a message from them yesterday and said that all of the projects for reimbursement that we've submitted have made it through the first round of review. So there's, as far as I can tell at this point, there's nothing else that we need to do. We're just waiting for a couple of layers of review. And hopefully at some point in the near future, we'll get reimbursed for the expenses we've incurred, which is going to be, around $500,000. I mean, it's significant.
It's a chunk of change, yeah.
Yeah. So that's moving along pretty well. A couple things I didn't include on here. I got a message this morning from the city of Ashland. And I know we've talked about this before, but they've expressed some interest in making a connection to the regional system. And they've asked me to come to their council work session on October 5th to talk about that. So we'll see what happens with that. I have had some conversations with Dustin over at the Medford treatment plant, and they have some concerns because it is a big hunk of flow that's going to go into the treatment plant.
Yeah.
And they're in the midst of doing a facilities plan right now, and they're on a compliance schedule, so they don't really have time to mess around and wait to see what Ashland's going to do. There's going to need to be some decisions made pretty quickly.
Right.
So
does Ashland have its own water treatment plant though?
Yeah, they've got a treatment. They've got their own treatment plant, and they're facing some pretty big upgrades themselves. And I think that's what's prompting this. And so it's, it's for them to connect. The interceptor is fine. We don't really have any issues with the interceptor system, but it ends in Talent. So they've got about 5 miles of pipe to build to connect to where the interceptor ends. So that's not nothing. It's pretty significant. And and then the question really comes down to what we need at the treatment plant, at the Medford treatment plant, because the Medford plant is close to its design capacity, and adding an extra 2 million gallons a day from Ashland is going to put it really close to the design capacity. So that's one issue. And then they're in the process of their facilities plan because they're going to have to do some advanced nutrient removal. And so what they decided to build, really is going to, if Ashland's connecting, it's going to make a difference on what they end up building. So Medford needs to know fairly quickly whether or not they're going to go that route. So they can support. So, we'll see. We've been down this road before. And we know, and it's ended the same place every time. So I don't know that this will be any different, but it's worth pursuing.
Well, Carl, and I'm sorry to take the time for this, but it sounds like if Ashland's having a problem with their treatment plant and they need to upgrade it or whatever, and Medford's almost to the point where they've got to do upgrades because there's so much capacity coming into it. Is there any significance of thinking about, yes, having Ashland go regional, but maybe upgrading Ashland and keeping their water treatment plant and then adding into Ashland, Talent, and Phoenix, and taking off a little bit of the pressure on Medford? That probably won't go over good with Medford, but I look at all possibilities, kiddo.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. The ground is not in your favor for that, because we would have to pump back uphill to.
That's right, uphill. That pesky little thing about uphill.
Yeah, we can make uphill work, but we prefer not to.
Gravity feed is so much better. This is true. Okay, never mind.
All right.
That's why we have professionals.
Yes. One other thing that I didn't include in the report is City of Gold Hill did hire a city manager, and he is he's working there, and I actually have a meeting set up with him tomorrow. So we'll talk about the future of the contract we have with Gold Hill and the future of their treatment plant at that point. So I haven't met him yet, so I really don't know anything. but we do need to, our contract with Gold Hill expires at the end of June next year. So we do need to get something taken care of there. And okay, moving on. I want to talk first about our performance incentive program, which actually was a little bit surprising to me this year because we got quite a bit more done than I thought we would, given that we were working on fire recovery for much of the year. But if you look at the memo I wrote, you can see, on our system integrity category, we completed 15 out of the 22 goals we set for ourselves. On our customer service, we completed 6 out of 9. On our fiscal responsibility, we met all 13. Our environmental protections, we met 8 of 13. And in our employee empowerment, we met 6 of our 7. So I think we did overall pretty well. Some of the things that we did not complete, like Shady Cove Pump Station number 2, we expected to get that one finished. But then the fire happened, so that didn't happen. And so we're still moving forward with that. On our TV work, we came up short, but just barely short, which was, like I said, I was pretty surprised by that, considering how much time, how much resources we were dedicating to the fire recovery. And we did meet our goals on the flushing side of it. Some of the other stuff, there's a lot of things that we put in here that are kind of stretch goals. A lot of the mapping work, we want to survey all of Shady Cove and get it all put on the proper datum. That's a big task. And at one point, we have GPS unit that we can go out there and do the work, but we don't have the people right now that can do that. Because we're pretty busy with that kind of stuff. So that, and that's where a lot of things that we missed are just fairly big tasks that require a decent amount of time dedicated to it. And at least this past year, we have not had the time to do it because the fire did consume a lot of our time. But overall, I mean, I think we did really well. And the way we calculate this is we allocate a maximum of $4,000 for each of the categories. And based on a percentage of the goals we hit, that's how much goes into the incentive pool. And then that gets divided up amongst our staff. And we distribute that in December. So totally we earned $15,284, which it's a couple $100 less than last year, but I think still, all things considered, did really well. So that is the plan moving forward, is to spread that out amongst the staff in December.
Cool. Okay.
Question on that.
Yes, Roger.
How is that spread out among the staff?
So I have a ridiculous formula. But basically what I do is it's weighted based on seniority. So every year that you work here, you get like an extra 2% of weight added to your share. So I take the total amount, I divide it amongst everyone with that weighting factor in it. And it's it's a little bit of a weird formula how I do it, but basically, if you're here 1 year longer than I am, you're going to get 2% more than I got out of the share, out of the total.
Right, but if you make twice as much money as I do, and we've worked.
Oh no, it's got nothing to do with your wages. It's equal for everybody based on seniority.
Okay.
So it has no bearing on a person's position or what their salaries are.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now the fun stuff.
Okay, I know we're going to get to the fun stuff.
So, okay, so, last month we talked about the governor's order to require vaccines for all state employees. And the question is, is that something that we are going to follow suit on? How are we going to address that? We didn't reach a decision last month. You directed me to basically do some analysis and see what is our risk, and how are we best to mitigate it. And so you've got kind of a maybe overly long memo on there. And just, I want to kind of address that a little bit.
There's a lot of math.
I'm trying to, yeah, I'm trying to narrowly focus this on the impacts to this organization. And I put a lot of detail in there, just to make it real clear what I'm basing my opinions on. And I think one of the, I don't know if it's a tragedy, but yeah, it is kind of a tragedy of the pandemic, is that there's just an overabundance of news and information, and the reliability of it is sketchy. And so you see these sensational headlines that are there shocking you, and then you don't see them again for, and you don't know if it's, if that was a real thing, if it was, whatever. So I've really tried to focus, everything on what are the official numbers being reported by Oregon Health Authority, by the CDC, by the Jackson County Public Health. And that's kind of, when I'm stating an opinion on that, that's where it's all focused on. I'm deliberately trying to avoid the latest and greatest news headlines, because the reliability of them, is often not there. And then I guess, I do want to kind of lay my cards on the table and expose my biases also before we get too deep into this. Because obviously this is a public health issue. But for me personally, to a certain extent, it is a bit of a moral issue as well. And it's kind of a question of, what are you willing to do for the health and betterment of your community and your nation and humanity as a whole? So that's the perspective I'm coming from. And so, I guess take that to heart, when you see what I'm writing here, just to make sure that, if I am introducing any kind of, I'm trying to keep my personal opinions out of this altogether, but if they're in there, just so you know, that's what my personal opinions are. And with that, I hope hopefully you guys have all had a chance to read this, and I think I've done a fairly decent job of assessing what level of risk we're facing, what types of risk we're facing from the pandemic, and the types of things that we're doing to try to mitigate those. And I guess I'll leave it up, let the board take it from there.
Okay, would you like Raj to start again?
Go ahead.
So,
Yeah, Rod, go ahead.
thanks, Kate. I'll say that I was very impressed with the depth and the way it was written up, and I mean, just it seemed, although there's a lot of math, it's just, in my opinion, it wasn't written. Carl didn't write it up like it was an opinion. It was, I felt like it was written more like fact, and I thought that he brought together the facts and an unbelievably good job of explaining it from start to finish, and the potential impacts to the organization, and so that was, I think that's a great job. And then not seeing that there's potential big impacts to the organization. I'm not ready to to vote yes for mandating this at this time.
Yeah. Thanks, Roger. Jim?
Well, I read it twice and I was impressed. We had somebody that took the extra effort to go from the macro to the micro within the organization and then lay it out. And I was even surprised when I got to the last page and saw that there were actually the entire page devoted to probability analysis, which I
Yeah.
thought that was very good tie-in. So I think the document itself is really good, well done and articulated. And then it gets down to the three possible ways we can go with this. When I stand back from all this and I look at the general environment in the world, in the US, in our region, in our state, in our Rogue Valley, what I think it is not a wise thing to do is to go in and mandate that people have shots. Personally, I have my shots. I believe that was the right thing then. I believe it's the right thing now. But I also understand that this has become an emotional, some people will say political, but it's really emotional level issue. And I think the consequences of trying to enforce something like that probably are not good. I'm waiting to see how the Department of Defense fares with all the folks in the military who normally would just do what they're told and go get their shots. Well, they just decided there's an end date by which they all have to be vaccinated. I've already seen one lieutenant colonel resign 1 year short of his retirement date, so he'll get no pension because he felt that strongly. So if there's one out there, there's probably others. Well, it'll be a good gauge for what happens in the larger sense. The second alternative here is to bribe people. I'll just use that word.
Because that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, and I see that one from a couple perspectives. When I was on active duty, we needed to reduce the number of people on active duty. So first you ask for volunteers and you go through, there was like 21 steps. And one of the last steps was, let's give a bonus to those who now are willing to step aside. But when you're trying to get from a large thing to a small thing, that can work, and it did work. But on this one, I think what you're trying to do is get people to stay. And by bribing them with staying, what you're going to end up with is the social aspects of what's going to happen in the minds and hearts of the people that are affected within the organization. The person that waited and said, oh, I'm going to get, whatever the number is, dollars. Yeah, let me just go ahead and do that. I feel good about that. I'm willing to overcome my biases to be paid to do it. Kind of mercenary. But the bad part is what happens with all the other people who went ahead and got their shots early. And they're now saying, gee, no, you waited around until you got paid for it. I didn't. You can create animosity in the workforce. The other part that can be bad for the company is that they start mobilizing themselves and say, well, maybe we should get paid for having done it early, just like you're paying these other people for doing it late. And now you have a financial problem and you have kind of a social problem going on. So those are kind of things that I think they're, using a incentive, I'll use that word again, get things done, has some pitfalls in it. And I'm not quite sure that everybody wants to have happen to them. And there's only a probability that it will, but there is some probability that you're going to create and people will feel badly about the problem to deal with. So I'm kind of just with, don't force the issue. Don't try to pay them, but work around it, because I think that's what we have here is a personnel management system dealing with what happens to the company if nobody else goes and gets vaccinated. And I think that's a good goal and that's a good product. So that's where I'm at with this.
Thank you, Jim. And I'm there too. I don't want to mandate it. I don't want to incentivize getting the shot. But I do want to make sure we make continue on with everything that we already have done, making sure that we have masks, we do the sanitation and cleaning and everything that we've already done. for the employees and staff and for the customers that come in and things and how we handle things. I want to continue with that because those things are important and will continue to be important for quite some time, I'm quite sure. The other thing that I think we're going to talk about too is our staffing in general. I think we're starting to feel the need to increase our staff, not just because of the things that are going on with the COVID, but because other people are counting on us. I mean, City of Rogue River, City of Gold Hill. We don't know what's going to happen with Ashland. All of those things we need, and we need to make sure that we don't burn out the staff we have. And so those are things that we're going to need to talk about as how we increase our workforce and why we're doing it and how we're going to, keep those steps moving forward so we can take care of business and at the same time take care of the people we already have. So anyway, that's where I'm at too. Carl?
Okay, that is a very clear direction and I appreciate that. And we will carry on. I do want to address what you were saying, Kay, about staff levels. And if you remember when we were doing my annual goal setting in July, that was one of the issues we talked about is that, I think we do need to do a real thorough evaluation of our staffing needs. And I think we need it sooner rather than later at this point because we are running fairly thin. And if you look on, I didn't put page numbers on my memo, but if you look on page 5, and let me actually I can scroll down to it also. I'm going on about what our crews are in the O&M department in particular.
That's the big one.
Yeah, and if you look at that, so before COVID, before last year, you see we have 2 employees working on locates and we have 2 people working on the pump station maintenance. For years, that's only been 1 each. And we have 1 guy that did pump stations. We have 1 guy that did utility locates, and they're not able to keep up anymore. I mean, the size of our district and the rate things are going, they do need 2 people on that. So those extra 2 people, we robbed them off of the TV and flushing crew. And so, when we have 2 people on our flusher crew and 2 people on our TV crew, that's half of what we should have. And so we do have equipment that's sitting idle right now because of that. Realistically, and we do have 1 vacancy right now also. There is definitely a need to add a number of employees on the O&M side. I think there's probably a need to add to look at expanding our engineering side of it because there's aspects of our long range planning and things like that we're just not able to do it with the staff levels we have. So I was hoping to be able to keep this at bay long enough to work it into next year's budget, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I think it is going to have to be done sooner rather than later. And Joan has been working on some compensation study, looking at some comparables because that's a concern also.
Yeah.
Like I said, we do have a vacancy right now in our O&M department. We're going to start advertising for that. But our base rate for a maintenance worker is, just a few dollars an hour more than what, Burger King has a giant sign on there. Sorry. And, we're looking for a much higher caliber worker than that. And so that is going to be an issue. That is a serious concern that we're having right now. So we do have we definitely have some issues there. And I think we're gonna push this a little bit faster than what I anticipated. Because I think that there is a desperate need. And This has been, yeah, it's been a tough year for a lot of reasons. I mean, the pandemic has been a drain on everybody emotionally. But the fires have as well. And you know,
It was a double whammy.
yeah. And a lot of people, they've put a lot into this, and they're at a point, people could use some relief. So anyway, I expect, I don't know if by October, but I'm hoping that by October I might have like some more specific requests on this. And because I haven't really looked at, the impact on the budget and that sort of thing, because it could be significant, depending on where we go. But anyway, I wanted to make sure that you're aware that this is happening. Also, one thing I wanted to address about the vaccine mandates and the way President Biden has done it is he directed OSHA to create rules about workplaces with 100 or more employees.
Right.
So the federal OSHA has not published those rules yet. But here's an important thing: is Oregon is not bound by federal OSHA rules. Oregon is one of 22 states that have their own OSHA program. And so the requirement for Oregon OSHA is once the federal OSHA publishes their rules, Oregon OSHA has 30 days to publish their own rules that have to be at least as strict, but they can go further. And so it's not outside the realm of possibilities that Oregon OSHA could come down and say, 100's too big, let's go 50 or let's go 25. It's also possible that they would distinguish between public and private agencies and say, 100's fine for private companies, but let's go 25 for public. So the decision we're making today to not, to continue with our process right now and not mandate vaccines, we might get overruled by OSHA. I mean, that is a distinct possibility. I don't know if they're making any sounds like that would happen, but throughout this pandemic, Oregon's kind of been on the bleeding edge of regulation. So it wouldn't
Like that word bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Well, and Carl, I think all of us, I think Roger and Jim and all of us realize that with the decision not to do that, things are changing. All of this stuff is a moving target at all times.
Yes.
But this is where we want to be for right now. And we'll continue to monitor everything that goes on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's all I have on this. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's any other
Yeah.
questions?
And Carl, if we could get some information on the staffing at our October meeting, that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to get on it too. We know for sure we need to replace one person, but the O&M team, it looks like to me that they need some help out there too. So let's look at how it affects the budget and what we can do.
All right, I will do that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for the hard work on that. And I know Joan is looking at other things, so that's appreciated. Anything else, Roger, Jim?
I'm sure that anything that Carl comes up with on the personnel numbers system will look at least as good as what he did on the vaccine.
Yeah,
He has the capability. The only
absolutely.
thing missing from here is
Yeah,
You screwed yourself.
thanks, Jim.
yeah, the only thing that's missing from here is Gaussian distributions and Poisson distributions. Other than that, you got it.
Applause transforms.
Okay, yeah, we will definitely do our level best.
Yeah, I know you will. In Phoenix, we're having the city manager go back and look at over the next 5 to 10 years, what his personnel requirements are going to be. Because we have PHs, which are areas that we can acquire, PH3 being right up the north-south 99 corridor all the way to Medford. All that's going to require more staff. So as each thing comes along, does he have enough staff now? Will he have enough staff as we get finished rebuilding? Will we have enough staff as we bring these other land masses in? And so, personnel issues on how many people you need and how much you have to pay is a real thing. It's not just here. So we know you're going to do a good job.
Okay. So, Carl. Board of
Yes.
Board of Education.
Oh, I didn't do it this month because I thought we'd be talking for longer,
Okay, then.
but I will next month. I think we won't, we won't have any potentially hot items, I don't think, next month. So we'll shoot for next month, and who knows, maybe we'll all be here.
Hopefully. And so we need to pay the bills. So I need a motion.
Well, I would move for approval, but I have a question about one of the payments. I want to know, when we're making a payment to Puma Investments, is that like a shoe company that?
Where is this one?
$12 to Puma Investments LLC. It must be a shoe company.
How many dollars?
12.
12?
Tis the Jaguar.
Puma Investments. UB vendor. Brenda, you there? I don't know what it is. I honestly, $12. It's probably a refund of, yeah, we end up having a lot of refunds, like if people move, and they have,
Oh,
they paid in advance, and we give that back to them. So I'm gonna guess that's what it is.
Proven Investments LLC.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that
Thanks,
sounds
Carl.
like a
Thank you, Carl.
Okay.
holdings company.
good question. Okay,
I saw, Kay, someone in the chat room said Mike Parsons had his hand up. I don't know if he was,
oh, I'm sorry, because,
yeah.
go ahead, Mike Parsons.
This is Mike. I just wanted to compliment the board for making the decision that they made. The number one option of do nothing was really the only common sense option. And I say that only because regardless of your political stance and regardless of how you stand on the vaccine mandates, a lot's going to happen between now and the 18th of next month, which is the deadline. There are so many potential court cases with district courts, Supreme Courts, and federal courts, because if you basically mandate the population in the entire country to cut back on half, it'll cripple the country, I think, economically. And when a seated officer in our government eliminates the Postal Service from having to follow the mandates, how can you do that and not say police departments, fire departments, sewer departments, water departments, communication departments can follow suit? And there's so many, I think, discrepancies on who should follow and who shouldn't, that I think eventually the courts will probably throw back or circle back, whatever the words you want to use, this mandate for October 18th. And this board's decision at this point to evaluate, do nothing at this point, was the right decision to make.
Thanks,
That's all I
Mike.
want.
I thought so too.
Okay. Did we vote on the bills?
No, we did
No,
not.
we were interrupted.
I'm sorry. I should.
Yeah, we should have done that before I let Mike talk, but that's okay.
I move to go ahead and approve the payment of all the bills.
Okay, okay. So we got a motion and a second. And let's have roll call, please.
Kate Harrison,
Yes.
Roger Cone,
Yes.
Jim Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Good deal. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? I appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
And
you, Kay.
Thank you, and thank everybody there at RVSS. Guys, have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Oh. Size of checks.
I know, you have a pen, right? Of course. Okay, I'm gonna go on over there for you.
You may have.
Okay.
Carl gets, I mean, now, Roger gets to practice his signature.
He does, yes. He's got
Okay.
a good stack ahead of him.
Okay, see you guys later.
Okay. Stop share.
Did the city fill their 2 new positions?